A Science of Change, podcasting by Gilmore Crosby, social scientist, author, and organization development professional since 1984. Greetings, listeners. Today I have a special colleague and friend from Estonia, Elar Killumets, and he is doing his own OD work in Estonia and Eastern Europe, and has been a very enthusiastic participant and learner in the OD that my brother and I are providing. So I'm excited to have you here, Elar.
Yeah. Hello, Gil. Glad to be here.
Great to have you. It's great to be able to connect like this from the far ends of the world. So just, we can go wherever you want to go, Elar, but just talk a little bit about your OD experiences, and we'll just have a conversation. You and I have had many conversations, so I trust we'll just go wherever we need to go with this.
Yeah, maybe from my side, how it's going with the OD or my way in the OD. I a little bit envy you, Gil, because when I know how you started in the OD, and it was kind of a dream start that I would like to my kids or my friends to have. When I was in kindergarten, then you started with the best possible mentors there is, and
yes, I had a great mentor, and I'm sure you're being a great mentor there in Estonia.
Yeah. My road was a little bit rocky, meaning that I practiced first as a C-level manager. Then I saw that what is written in the books and how the real life is happening, there is a discrepancy. So I thought that, hey, why don't I go back to the university and do my PhD in the topic of team functioning, team processes. And as a side hustle, I started to do the OD work. But the term organization development, I didn't know that term, by the way, before 2017 something. I was doing the work that seems to be important or meaningful to the customers, to the organizations. But at the same time, I knew that it wasn't coaching what I did. It wasn't consulting, like there's somewhere there is a blue book how to do things and some clever guy will tell you how to do it. I wasn't training or teaching, so it was something different. And for maybe even 4 or 5 years when I was doing the work, I felt, stranded. It means that I knew what needs to be done, or I knew what would help the organizations, but somehow it didn't fit anything that I knew that existed. So in 2017, I first read the term organization development, and when I read the book, then I understood that organization development is what I'm doing, and it was a feeling was kind of a coming home. Now I know where I belong. And
well, it wasn't long after that you chose to come to the OD Network conference in Las Vegas.
Exactly. A year after this, or maybe half a year after I made this discovery that there is the field of OD, and actually OD is what I'm doing, although I knew nothing about the theories, just using my gut feeling and a bit of common sense. And then in this conference, I met you and your brother.
Yep, and you've been an enthusiastic consumer of the material and the thinking that we've provided.
I would say that the materials that you have, your father's work, those people around your father, your own work, your own books, your own practice, how you're doing things, it has proven to be like a well that you can take a lot of out, and there is still water in, and you can consume endlessly. And for example, we spoke like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Then I told you that I've read your father's book, Memories of a Change Agent, 4 times. Now I have read it 5 times, and each time when I read the book, and I like when I read, I always like to make notes about some ideas or some concept and then write some of my own thoughts in it with the pencil that is erasable. So each time when I have read the book, I've always thought that why did I outline those ideas? Those are so simple and so basic. The other one next to it, it's much more important and much more meaningful to me. So it's kind of when I develop, then I'm able. It seems to be that I'm able to take more out of it, what is being written, at least in this book.
What you're doing is what Ed Schein called process consultation, which is like connecting with the organizations and then helping them think for themselves and using your experience even in the meetings of what's happening as a guide to what might be helpful to them.
Yes, I again before I understood that what I do is OD or process consulting. I think they're pretty similar, at least in my mind, as a concept.
Yes.
Then I still remember the thought in my head that I need to find some magic process, let's say how to facilitate, how to make a team better, or how to get a good goal alignment. That there is somewhere there is a good process or a good step by step way how to do it. And today, I don't see that it's necessary. It all boils for me now today. It's all boils down to I could take whatever the process there is, or even if the company has some favorite process that they're using, but they're not getting the results that they want to get. I'm even working with that because that is not, in my experience, not that important that there's this perfect process of how to do things or perfect way how to align goals or align teams. There's something else is more important. and in a way, every year the reason why I go once a year to tough stuff, for example, is that it somehow helps to understand what is really important. What this team or division or organization, what they really need to prosper. Kind of the idea is that there is full of knowledge how to do stuff, how to do the customer, how to do the market, how to do the internal processes, how to do whatever it needs to be done. But for some reason, this knowledge in the head and this desire or passion in the heart about the markets or about the products or services that they're doing is not ending up in decisions that would lead them where they want to go, or ending up in a processes or process changes. And
Sure.
my fascination has been how to help the organizations to untap this unused potential that they have already.
Right, because it's already there in the group. They already have ideas about what needs to be done. They're just having a hard time for some reason voicing those ideas and listening to each other and turning it into action.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say that today I'm more relaxed regarding the whole process of the OD or working with organizations, rather going with the flow and trying to figure out what is this one or two things that would change the game for those people there. And I always have in my head, I have written down in 3 or 4 different occasions, Gil was meeting with you, thought that if something seems complicated or difficult in leadership or in relationships in general, then you are probably overthinking. And so my kind of passion is to figure out how to not make things easy, but how to see in this difficulty or complexity those 1 or 2 things that would really be a game changers for those people.
Well, it takes some of the burden off of me, at least, trusting that they have the answers and that there's just something about their way of relating to each other that's keeping them from, getting clearer and then acting on the answers.
Yeah, exactly. I like the words that you use, that way of interacting with each other, because at least today I have arrived in thought that the way how we talk to each other when discussing some important things or trying to make decisions, it kind of makes or breaks the situation.
That makes sense. It's what also has been called use of self.
Yeah.
If I'm holding back, if I'm afraid to say something, if I'm judging and not really interacting, sort of free of those judgments, and all that stuff gets in the way. It's getting in their way, likely. So if I can be a better team member when I'm with them, then that'll help free them up.
Yeah, and also it relaxes me in my role that I don't need to bring some fancy techniques or fancy processes or fancy knowledge about something, but actually what I need to bring is their own awareness, what's happening, why they're not
Yep.
getting what they want to get collectively, and somehow help to surface it in a way that would be comfortable enough for them to tackle it. Because if it's too uncomfortable, like hit in the forehead, then it's difficult to use it. But if it's like uncomfortable enough to spark the dialogue, but at the same time soft enough to keep going in that dialogue, then yeah.
That makes sense. And so to help yourself become more effective, you, like you mentioned, have been going to these tough stuffs. You came all the way to Delaware to a tough stuff, and then you and others from Estonia came to Poland, right?
Yeah.
To Warsaw, and now you're coming all the way to Seattle soon.
Yeah. Sometimes
for T groups.
For T group. Yeah. Sometimes my friends ask from me, Elar, why you're going there again? What is the new stuff that you're learning? And actually, the honest answer is that in past two tough stuffs, I have heard nothing new, fact-based
in terms
or
right in terms of
I
theory.
have in terms of theory as a theory as a fact. But each time when I've been there, I have had feeling of enlightenment, that something that I knew before or some situation that I've seen, experienced in my work, somehow they made sense. For example, when I came to Delaware, I had known about this identified patient principle for 3 years, definitely, maybe even 4 years, what the theory is around it, what's the logic is. But then on the day 4, when you spoke about it, like you spoke about it, all of a sudden it made sense to me. I could identify clearly when I fell into this trap of how I'm reacting to this identified patient, what I'm seeing in customer interaction happening. So I went back from the Delaware. I felt like a Jedi Knight, that I could just do some, or a matrix, in a matrix, that the bullets fly towards me and I just stop them in the air. That was the feeling, that it was all there, but somehow I didn't know that it's there. It was still too complex for me before. So
that makes sense. And that's the value of Lewin's T group, is that what I'm learning about, even as I facilitate the T groups, Elar, I'm learning about my own reactions, how I hold back at times, and how that then influences the group. Probably if I'm holding back, the group's more likely to hold back or stay stuck.
Yeah. It's I don't know, even when we speak about it at the moment, like I'm not sure if those guys who are listening, those who are listening to us at the moment, that whether it somehow resonates with you, meaning that this understanding that group is impacting me always, and I'm always impacting it back, and it's usually happening subconsciously. And the moment I start to understand these unconscious patterns between me and the group, these dynamics, let's call it group dynamics, all of a sudden I will get control of myself. I'm more grounded in myself, and at the moment it's easier for me to keep the contact with the group. So it's kind of it's a magic in a way. Maybe it's a wrong word, but it's a magical feeling that to be part of it at the same part of the group, and at the same time differentiated enough that the group wouldn't overtake me. I'm in a comfortable position.
That makes perfect sense to me. And for the listener, it may be more conceptual because some of that learning really does have to happen in a T group or in a group that you're in where you're at least getting feedback and reflecting on your experience. That could happen in a lot of different ways, but certainly the T group's one of the most, goes right after that.
Yeah. And going back this simplicity, you mentioned Lewin, Gil. Some of the stories that you have shared about Lewin, for example, that just what simplicity means to me. One of the most powerful ones is the story about how Lewin helped to deliver some knowledge about, I think it was irrigation.
Mm-hmm.
So something to do with farming.
Yes.
And he had like two groups that in one group, the scientists came in and told them exactly how to do stuff and sell them the idea about how to have better crops and better earn more from the land that they have. And in another group, they just shared some ideas and had them talk about it. What you believe in, what you don't believe in, what you know that definitely will not work in your lands, that science says that has to work. It's kind of a freedom inside those things. And then how impactful it was on the adoption of those new practices. Technically, the new practices helped the farmers to earn more, but the way how it was delivered to them, I think in first group where it was kind of a sold to them or gave to them as a, not obligation, but you are like stupid if you're not doing it type of communication, then the adoption rate was 15.
It was pretty low.
Very low, somewhere in teens. And in the second group, where the farmer had a choice to discuss about, do I believe in it? Am I ready to test it? What makes sense? What doesn't make sense? It has some 80% of adoption.
Yes.
And it
very
was
high.
Very high, and it was improving in time by itself. So very sustainable results. And for example, I don't know how it's in US, but at least in Estonia here, or also in neighboring countries, it's a common challenge for manager in a meetings to how to get, let's say there is monthly town hall meeting, management shares how it has been going, what are the plans, what we are doing well, what we are not doing well. And most of them, not all, but most of them, they hate the silence in the room. That they give some information and nothing comes back, or there is no discussion, or nobody asks anything, or the questions are too vague. And I always tell them the story that I just shared and that you shared with me about the Lewin and those farmers, and ask them that, okay, how would you rearrange your presentation based on this, how Lewin did it? And the result is always that the people are speaking back.
Well, that's great, Elar. And a big chunk of that is simply that there's a time for the peers, in this case the farmers, but it could be any group, to talk to each other, not just talk to the expert or the leader.
Yeah, exactly.
But to think out loud. As you know, often we have people do that in pairs, but in a manufacturing plant, I'll just say, turn and talk to the people next to you. And so they have a chance to, it's just different to think out loud for yourself with your peers and chew on stuff than it is to try to talk to the leader who just gave you this information. Then all the authority relationships get in there, and people are, either easily cowed or intimidated, not intentionally even by the leader.
Yeah.
But they just need a chance to think for themselves for a while, and then, and of course they add information. Those farmers added stuff that they knew that the expert didn't know.
Yeah,
As
and
part of
expert
their
can
solution.
never know. because the expert
Yes.
is not working the field
Yep.
as much as those who are actually doing the work in the organization. The front line knows the best about the processes and what works and what doesn't. So again, for me, it was a fascinating that in a way it was, from the Lewin side, it was so simple, and yet the problem for those managers who couldn't get a response from the people after presenting some material or strategy, they were kind of stuck how to do it, have the better PowerPoints, have some raffle, have some prizes, whatever to do, how to get them speaking. But actually, all what it took to get the feedback and to get the information flowing was just to stop for 3 or 4 minutes and have the talk about what did they heard, what makes sense,
Yep.
what doesn't make sense, where is the gray areas. And for me, that fascinates me, that there are so many things, or I don't know, situations in any organization's life or any team's life actually, that seems to be really difficult how to do it. And sometimes the label is that, I have the people that I have, and with those people, the outcome is kind of inevitable, or I need to cope with that, or there is nothing to do, nothing can be done.
Right.
And
There's
then
something wrong with the people.
Exactly. There is something wrong with the people, or there is something wrong with the industry we're working in. Let's say in startups, it's normal to burn out when you're 25. I would say that's come on, guys. It's not serious. Or in production, it's normal that people are not speaking up. Or in service, there are some other stories. But actually, no. There is always something, and usually elegantly simple. I think most of what Lewin did was very elegant. But for some reason, it takes some T grouping and time and thinking and practicing to get into to find this elegancy like Lewin had.
Well, yeah. So I just want to say that conceptually, he believed, based on, he kept turning everything into a research project where there'd be a control group and there'd be a group that was doing it the way that he believed would be more likely to lead to success, like allowing people to think for themselves. But conceptually, he just got it that if you push people, then they'll probably push back in their own way, even if that's silence. Or they'll just try to comply, but without really being invested emotionally and intellectually. And so you get passive compliance, and that usually doesn't lead to the best outcomes. But you mentioned the identified patient, and basically the idea there is, well, if you blame the people for not speaking, you've made them into the identified patient, maybe the whole group.
Yeah.
But often there's a person or a department that people are blaming. And as soon as that happens, it tends to become stuck. They're more likely, the people being blamed are more likely to stay stuck in their behaviors.
Yeah.
And the system is more likely to stay stuck. So how do you help people feel respected? That's part of that whole process too, of letting people talk to each other and think for themselves, and then receiving what they say without just getting defensive and reactive.
Yeah, and when you say this, that let the people have a good conversation. Again, I had pretty good training before I met you, and have had some knowledge about theories of communication and facilitation, a little bit also, a bit of coaching and stuff like that. But what really struck me was when we consulted during the COVID time, where everybody was sitting at home, and some startup investors invited me in to help some companies who were having a really good business case, but because of the change that was happening during the COVID and this uncertainty, that those, like the startups, even startups, were feeling too much of the pressure, and people were burning out and things were not moving, and they asked to work with some of their key investments. And then I invited in your brother Chris, and we did it together. I think in your books, the process is called survey feedback. But in what we did was a little modification of that. It's called now Team Development Intensive. And it was all about helping with a very strict rules, people to talk to each other. And what fascinated me was that although I had the knowledge about how things should be or what is the good way to have this really open dialogue, I was trained in doing it. The
Sure.
way how you did it, or how Chris did it, and how your family wisdom, how you are doing it, it somehow again changed my world. For example, how the listening should be happening in the group. Very simple thing. Everybody's talking about, yeah, you should listen more, and listening is important. And there are countless trainings in Estonia, and I assume also in US, and I definitely know in Germany and Sweden, countless training about how to be a good listener, how to listen to each other. And usually those trainings don't stuck because there is a meeting, still nobody's doing active listening. And the way how you did it, meaning that how Chris showed me how to do it, how to help the group to start listening without any training. Just they were discussing the stuff that needs to be discussed. They were discussing their conflicts that needs to be resolved. And we helped the people to start listening to each other. And I know a company, they haven't had any leadership trainings after that. I think it was 4 years back when we did it. They are still using all the skills. They are still actively listening. The company has grown from 40 people to 300 something by today. But they are still always in the meetings, still using those techniques. So
that's great.
It was simple. It was understandable. People could experience it. And all of a sudden, all those fancy and maybe some mysterious stuff that coaches do or therapists do, all of a sudden it was made accessible to people, to a wide audience. And I really liked about this experience, to really see how it is done in a normal human interaction, not as a technique or something like a coach and coachee do or leader and follower do between each other, but something normal, like me and you are talking. So that really kind of it was life-changing for me, I would say, to see how it's done.
Sounds like it was life-changing for that organization too.
Yeah, we worked with, I think, 5 or 6 startups, and most of them, except one, they are still alive, they are still doing well. But it's the very first one, that one I know more. I have more relationship with them also today. It's fascinating to see. They're still using it. They're still doing it.
That's great. Well, it. By the way, I'm loving this. This is just the kind of conversation I was hoping we would have. And there's two things that are popping to my mind. One is that the concept of over-functioning and under-functioning,
yeah,
which applies to the leadership in most organizations. They're over-functioning, and that's part of the reason. Like, they're trying to come up with all the solutions and trying to motivate people instead of engaging people in such a way that and so people under-function because the leadership's over-functioning, or the facilitator, then the group is under-functioning. And if you don't change your own behavior as a leader or as a facilitator, it will continue.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite concepts when I work daily, then to pay attention to my own functioning. And again, I still remember how I found out about the concept. I was working with a company. They were like the market that they're having. The market is pretty flat. It's not growing much, maybe plus 1% a year, maybe sometimes a 0. And this company was, at the time when I was working with, I still work with them, but at the time that I have in mind at the moment, they were like growing 2%. So more than a market, but still, and they were number 4 in the market. And then the leader and one of the owners wanted to do a radical shift, to start thinking differently about the business, about the organization, and to kind of be the number 1, to catch up. And the key element that he identifies is that how we work as an organization, not what the strategy, meaning that what is the business or products is or pricing is, but what is happening inside the organization, how we're doing the daily work. They have pretty intensive work, and there is a lot of conflict if not managed well, and high performance together, like all our A plus students. And so started the process. Seems to be rather easy things to do. And they achieved the growth of 5% in a month. So growing significantly than the market. But still my gut feeling said to me that it doesn't make sense that they should be going like 15 or 20 minimum. And then I called you, your brother, Chris, and said that, Chris, I have this issue that we're doing this and that with that organization, and they should be going, in my gut feeling, 15-20%, but they're doing only 5%. And Chris was listening to me for 5 minutes and said that, Elar, you're over-functioning. So what it meant was that I was pushing some things that wasn't my job to push. It was the job of the CEO. And because I was doing it for him, like informing people on some things and reminding some agreements and some principles and motivating or encouraging them to apply certain techniques in their daily interactions. But actually, this was all the work of the CEO. And when Chris explained me that what I was doing, and then I figured out what to do differently. So I went in next day, started to do things differently, and like a month or two later, exactly the same things were still there. They didn't add any new tricks or any new processes or any new knowledge. They went from 5 to 15. So the reason why they couldn't go was, again, what fascinates me was that I wasn't part of the organization. I was outsider. I was just there maybe 1 day a week, maybe a day and a half, sometimes it didn't show up for a couple of weeks if there was nothing to be done. So I wasn't part of the system. I wasn't like a manager. I wasn't the leader. I wasn't the owner. I wasn't the CEO. But still, my actions, carried from a good intention, had the impact of those. I think it was that back then they were 250 people organization. So not very big, but still pretty nice one. My actions as a foreigner or outsider limited them to the growth of 5% when actually they could do 15. That was really hit me, that how much I actually impact people I work with, also in negative way, not only positive, but also negative. I think that's the case of the negative example.
Yeah, so in a sense, you were over-functioning and
yes.
The CEO was under-functioning.
Exactly, because I was doing too much, then he could do a little bit less than he should have. And the dynamic.
I take it that you had a conversation with the CEO that helped change that.
Yes. I changed my own behavior, meaning that I figured out what was my own neutral functioning. I spoke about why I stopped doing this and why I limit myself to certain boundaries, and what is now his role. For example, very simple example. There was a large meeting, some new goals, new strategies people were informed of some new stuff. And then I heard afterwards that some departments didn't understand it. They didn't understand what the goal was or why it was done or why exactly we're applying those principles, how it's related to the bottom line results. And then I explained them. And because I explained them, because I knew what they were done, because I was there when it was developed and I was very well aware of the intention.
Sure.
Then, so when I was explaining this to them, the leader never knew that the way how we presented the information or the way how it was delivered, it didn't reach the audience. And also the audience didn't develop the habit that if I don't understand what my sponsor, the CEO, the sponsor is telling to me, then I should say that, hey, I didn't understand what you meant by that. Please explain me more. Or what do you mean by that when you say this? Or why you were doing this or that? If they don't learn to ask, then there will constantly be a gap in their in their communication. They are not
Right,
learning
and
from each other how to function together well.
they could become dependent on you. Just, we don't
Basically, yes.
understand what's happening. We'll call LR, and instead of actually talking it through with the leader as they needed to do.
Yeah. And then what I changed was very simple, that if I heard that somebody didn't understand it or asked from me that, could you please explain, I didn't get why this or that or how this should be done, then I said that, okay, let's go to the CEO and he will talk again.
Nice. You were also breaking triangles then once you started doing that. You were, instead of encouraging indirectness by having them talk to you, you were turning it into a opportunity for directness between the CEO and them.
Oh, that's a good point. Yes, actually, it was it was also triangles were there. The bad ones, I mean, were definitely there when they addressed me, or I was the one who was searching for those incompatibilities. Again,
yeah, that's everywhere. People being indirect and having that damage productivity and morale and so on.
Yeah. And again, they can be indirect because there is somebody who is covering their back, meaning that somebody who is over-functioning. Like making sure that the very bad stuff is not happening, the catastrophe is not happening, but actually the good workflow is also not happening. So it's kind of a okay state or state of bearable performance or bearable relations. Not great, not good, but bearable.
Makes sense, LR. You have, during these past few years, whenever you get a concept in your head, have been not shy to talk. And really, I want to say this to all the listeners. My brother and I, we're pretty busy, but I've never been too busy to talk to people free of charge and just think things through, help them think things through from this type of perspective, not over functioning, etc. How do you help groups really do their own work and organizations unleash their potential? And so anyone could call, but it's rare. There's just a small number of people like you that actually email me and say, well, let's talk. I'm dealing with this or that, and I just gotta say to the listening audience, there could be more of that. Feel free. Worst thing that'll happen is I'll say, man, I'm too busy, but I've never had to do that so far.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever will. I think there'll always be time to chat with people who are really wanting to move things in a different way.
Yeah. At the beginning, you mentioned use of self, and then we spoke about dynamics, that group is impacting me and I'm impacting the group back. And when you were now talking about talking to and calling and sharing ideas or asking advice, then I just recalled once when I called you, I was really stuck with a team. In that situation, it was a simple training on some basic leadership skills. They had internal program, a long one, but for some reason they had us struggling with one group of participants. Mm-hmm. I wasn't told, of course, but they just said, hey, we're having this program. Would you please come in and do due days with one group? We'd like to see how it works and how you do it. But actually behind it was that the group was a nightmare and it wasn't working at all. And they were really confused what to do, how to do the program or how to proceed.
The group was their identified patient.
The group was identified patient. You can say this. So on day one, what was happening, I must say that I was struggling on day one because they argued a lot. And there was some other dynamics that was happening. So it was kind of going okay-ish, but not good enough for me and for them also.
Uh-huh.
And then I remember sending you an SMS that, hey, Gil, I need to discuss with you very quickly. I am in really, really trouble. I don't know what to do. And then we had a conversation. I was describing maybe 5 minutes what was going on in the group, what were the patterns. And then you just asked me that, Elar, but have you told them what you want from them? One thing that I wanted was that if the conversation is going in a direction that some of them don't like, that was the pattern, one of the patterns that they had. So just please tell that, I'm not liking I like initial topic, but I don't like the development that we're doing here. Then maybe can we go back to the initial route? Have you told them that? And I said that no, I was trying to force them back into this, into the good path of discussion. But I actually never told them that that's what I wanted. If they don't like the direction, then just speak up and let's go back as a group. And when you said to me, have you told them, all of a sudden I knew exactly what I should do to change the dynamic of the group and to kind of get into the clear waters with them. And I did. Next day I went in, I addressed some stuff that was happening. I said what I want instead. I asked them, is it okay? I remember even thinking that maybe I should buy some hats of who will be the monitor, the team or the group process monitor, that if they see something happening, that they would be responsible for doing it. But then I thought that, hey, why the hell should I buy the hat? I would just tell them that, anyone, if you notice something in the group dynamics that is not to your liking, please speak up. I'm not the one who should be like babysitting you or paying attention to what you might need or what you might like. And they did. And there were fascinating discussions between them about why you were doing things that we don't like to happen in the group. Why you were creating patterns that none of us likes, but actually all the patterns are created by us. So that was really cool learning moments for them and for me also. But it all started from your question that, Elar, what do you want from them actually? Have you told them what you want? And my answer was, no, I haven't.
It's often that simple.
I think it's mostly that simple. But again, I still remember the feeling being stuck. I haven't been stuck for many times. It was the very first time for me to feel the stuckness when working with groups or organizations. And again, I was still like surprised how easy it was to come out of this stuckness.
Well, part of the stuckness was that it seems like you were over-functioning.
Exactly.
And thinking it was your responsibility to talk them into wanting what you wanted. Without really saying what you wanted.
Exactly. That's exactly 100% correct. I tried to push them into doing what I want them to do, but at the same time, I didn't tell them what I wanted.
And then ultimately, well, go ahead.
Even actually what I wanted and they wanted was exactly the same.
Yes, same with the farmers.
Oh, exactly, yeah. The government, the farmers and scientists wanted the same thing. They were having the same goal.
Yep, but the interaction was stuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Again, that's often the case. I mean, I love what we're doing. Chris and I in a manufacturing plant in Tennessee, they've let us work with everybody in the whole system, every group, and they're amazed. It's not amazing to me, but the leadership is amazed that the people are so passionate about wanting things to improve, but have just felt like they're not listened to for years and years and years. So they're just upset. And so they often, if they try to talk about issues, the first thing that happens is people are mad. And then the leadership gets overwhelmed and thinks that it was a mistake to try to talk. But really, the people want the same thing as the leadership. They want the work to go smooth. They want the place to make money. They want, that's all they want.
Yeah, actually, because if the place is doing well, there are good profits, then probably there are good investments. Most likely there are salaries are better. Most likely there are some bonuses being paid during Christmas or some other festives.
Yep, so, job stability.
yeah, job stability, usually job conditions, machinery that I'm operating is usually much better in companies that have good profitability. So it's a kind of always it's win-win-win-win-win situation. But for some reason, it is so easy to go into they're not interested, they don't care about this, they are living in the ivory tower, all those blaming language.
Yep.
It's very easy to kick in all the countries I've worked. I've worked in Japan, in Germany, in Sweden, UK. It's like everywhere the same. Seems to be that there are
Blaming
certain.
seems to be pretty universal.
Yeah, it seems to be part of being a human. Not blaming. Let's say I like the concept that you are using, this victim creator. That I can blame others or expect others to do something that I would get what I want or what is important to me. But if I wait, actually in my head, I'm actually blaming that because I'm not getting my good stuff because they, like the management or the workers or the consultants or the owners or the market or the government, is not doing something that I want them to do. And now I am without this good stuff that I expect to have. Versus being this creator is that what can I do to move things in a desired direction? Come out of this passive blaming position into, even if I'm the frontline worker, I can always do something. Of course, if I'm manager, I can do more or impact more, but still everybody can do something.
Yep. And what am I doing that might be causing the very problems that I'm experiencing? That's the creator side. Really looking at yourself.
I think I took this sentence from one of your books, Gil. I assume that. And the question that I've been asking in past 3 months is that what I am doing that is keeping my manager or leader acting the way I don't like him or her to act. So what am I doing that he or she can be what he or she is that I don't like? And it has turned to be a really powerful question that we always have a role.
That's great. And that could have come from any Dad or Chris or my writing, any one of us. Or Lewin. Yeah. So
yeah, but the mindset is the same, that I'm not blaming myself. I'm not also blaming you. But there is something in the dynamics between me and you that results in the outcomes or your behavior that I don't like or that somehow harms me.
And it's really easy to do that with authority relationships. It's really easy to expect the boss to know what to do, or expect the boss to be a good listener, or all the different expectations, and then to blame the boss for failing to meet the expectations, but not giving them feedback in a way that they're likely to be able to hear it. Instead, just talking to my peers about how awful they are and what micromanagers they are, and blaming the boss.
Yeah, I'm catching your word that how awful micromanagers you are using the blaming language. For me, if I think about organizational cultures, then it a lot. One side is that how we make decisions, important part of the culture. But second, maybe even in my head at the moment, the most important part is that how we interact with each other if things are not going the way we wanted or I wanted.
Yep.
Do we search for the one to blame, who is actively, aggressively attacking each other, maybe in the words, maybe in the head, doesn't matter, or we are passively avoiding the topic, not talking at all, or talking, I don't know, behind the back.
Yep, which is also a blame behavior.
Which is, it usually contains some kind of triangulation or blame behavior. Or we talk about things as they are. And the trick, again, in the words that I use is that everybody has been in a conversation that starts with, I will tell you honestly what I think. And usually what follows is a very harsh judgment about, let's say, you are, I don't know, micromanaging, or you are not listening to me, or you're not caring for workers, or you're not caring for the company, whatever it is. And when I hear this judgment about me, that I don't care, I don't try hard, that's your story of me. And usually it's not a very accurate story. So of course I will become defensive. Of course I will start fighting back, explaining, or just shut up because I don't agree with what you said and I don't have the courage to fight you back. And that comes to this maybe third person. I have named your dad. I have named Lewin. And the third person, I think, that has impacted me a lot, and I know you're a fan of the work of that person, is John Wallen.
Absolutely.
And I think somewhere it was that the most difficult skill, social skill, according to Wallen, is that to be able to separate what is the behavior that I'm seeing from the meaning that I'm giving to that behavior, my judgment of that behavior, my analysis of that behavior.
Especially if it's a negative analysis.
Especially if it's a negative. And what my experience has been that the moment I can help people to drop the judgment analysis, especially negative ones, and instead of that start talking in the behavior that I noticed, all of a sudden those conversations become much more easier. Even if they talk about some very strong disappointments or some very strong clashes, the moment they switch to the behavior descriptions, the moment somehow it changes. It goes totally differently, totally much smoother.
Well, we're on the same page because I was just thinking about interjecting behavior description and Wallen's interpersonal gap into this conversation, and also based on what you said earlier about listening, and because there are techniques that are helpful especially if there's tension that's stuck. If I can get down to, well, what's the behavior that I'm reacting to, and just talk about the behavior, there's a better chance of having a productive conversation. But if I'm receiving, you mentioned the leader a few moments ago, like feeling defensive. Well, that's when, if the leader has the consciousness to say, okay, this is hard for me to hear, but what did I actually do or say that's leading to your reactions? Then the leader could, yeah, that's right. Anyone when they're receiving feedback that's hard to hear could help shift the conversation into specifics. When I do or say this or that, is that the moment? And then they're likely to have a productive conversation if they're willing to learn about themselves and about other people's reactions. And then the other skills, paraphrasing. That also helps people get off of passive listening, which is where I'm willing to say to you what I think you meant, and to explore, to verify whether I even understood it the way you meant it. That's a really important and underdone skill for groups and for certainly handling any kind of tension.
Yeah, and again, like I said before, that there are countless number of trainings about listening, and for some reason it doesn't stick too well. But when people are actually doing their daily work, like in regular setting, and somebody is helping them to do this listening,
yep,
it will stick much better. When we talk about judgments, then I just recalled that most of my engagement with organizations, they start with the CEO telling that I'm asking, okay, why do you want to do it, or what's the challenge that you are trying to solve here? Workers are not, motivated. That's a judgment, right? And then I'm asking, okay, what do you see them doing, or how would they behave if they would be motivated? No, they are not kind of. The answer is that no, they're not motivated because they are trying not trying hard enough. Okay, what would I see on the camera when you're saying that they're not trying hard enough? And it takes usually some 5 or 6 questions to get to the actual behavior that they are seeing. And once they're able to name that, what is the actual behavior that they are seeing, then it's clear that there is nothing to do with motivation or caring or something else, but there are very clear reasons why they're doing what they're doing.
Sure, like the leader may not have been clear about what they want.
Yeah, or whatever it is, but
whatever it is.
But the behavior is a kind of a fact, and that can be discussed, that can be changed, that can be, I don't know, analyzed or yeah. But the judgment that they are not caring, nothing to do with. If based on that judgment that they are not, I don't know, they're not motivated, we would have as a motivational meeting, everybody would leave the meeting and would say that what a waste of time. Because motivation wasn't what they needed. They needed totally something different.
They want someone to listen to them about their ideas about how to make the work go better.
Generally, that's the case. That they see a lot of irregularities, illogical decisions, or faulty processes. But for some reason, again, I still don't understand sometimes why this knowledge on the front is not reaching the top, and vice versa also. It's also often the top has very clear understanding what would work better, but for some reason the front is not accepting it. Going back to this, US government wanted to change the way how farmers farm their lands.
Yep. Well, look, Elar, this has been lovely, and I think it's probably enough for people to really be chewing on some stuff, and it's probably about as long as I would want to do in one conversation, but I may want you back as a guest. Is there anything else you really want to cover before we conclude?
Actually, you said, Gil, that it's possible to call you and have a chat with you. I have my own personal suggestion from your own books. Please help me remember, what was the headline of the book where you wrote about Wallen theory? And I said to you that this is the best explanation of this Wallen communication theory that there is, about the difference between a judgment and the fact or behavior description. It was chapter 3, I remember.
Yeah, I think that was Diversity Without Dogma. Now, I've written, now 7 books, and I've included Wallen in 6 of them. So, to me, it's really important stuff. But go ahead.
For me, this in the book Diversity Without Dogma, chapter 3, I think, it was all about the same phenomena that we just described. I think it is the best one I have ever seen written about it. So, listeners, if you're interested in that stuff, chapter 3. Enjoy.
Cool. And by the way, dear audience, my latest book is now out. Leadership and the Frontline Workforce. And it includes almost everything that we've covered in this conversation, often from the perspective of hourly workers in manufacturing plants. I interviewed people who had been there before my father or I or my brother arrived, during, what it was like during our time there, and after, how it's been sustained. And so anyway, it's, again, the more people you have throughout your organization that are being like Elar, who are thinking about, what's my piece of this when things aren't working? And am I being indirect? And am I taking on too much of the responsibility, in a sense, and in some way impeding what should be happening in the system? Anyway, that's all in this latest book, which also includes Wallen's interpersonal gap. I think I just stuck the chapter from Diversity Without Dogma at the end of it. So anyway, so that's all happening. You are coming to Seattle in
October,
and right before that, I'm heading to Spokane to speak at the OD Network conference with Dad. Dad and I are co-presenting. He's 97.
I saw that today. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. And so and we're talking about the very first project I worked on, which was we got 10,000 citizens in Spokane, Washington, to vote on different options for the future of the park in downtown Spokane. It was the first OD work I did, and they that was a great example of Dad being a Jedi, because they were the citizens who were in the original committee were so angry. There's a small group of them that were so angry at Dad. They thought he was a stooge for the park department, and he was there to try to trick them into something. And he just helped them. He listened to them non-defensively, and then helped them create options for the future of the park. And then the citizens got to vote. So that was a cool project. Anyway, it's always possible to move forward if you let people influence. Figure out how to let people influence and get in the habit of influencing effectively.
And at the same time, holding the structure and holding some very clear rules and boundaries.
And goals.
In its broader, and goals in its broader sense.
Yep. Okay, well, thank you, Elar.
Thank you, Gil, for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Anything else?
No.
Okay, well, and if people want to get a hold of you, they can at least contact me, and I'll put them in touch.
Definitely.
Got a great OD guy doing his job, doing his work in Estonia and the surrounding region and the world.
Yeah.
Okay, well, again, thank you, Elar, and thank you, audience, for listening. And that, I believe, is a wrap. Hey, I appreciate you listening. This, again, is Gil Crosby. And I want you to take advantage of what's available to you. I have many free materials. I am happy to talk to people about their situations, especially if you're trying to create change, either social change or organization change. We have frequent workshops that are available, T group workshops. If you have never been in a T group with us, then don't miss it in your life. Many people have said to me, of all the trainings I've ever received, I got this one 30 years ago, and it's the only one that stuck with me. You're learning from your actual interactions with the other participants and with the faculty. The faculty are walking the same talk that they're teaching of behavioral skills. It's a training workshop. That's what the T stands for. This is done in the spirit of the creation of T groups by Kurt Lewin and his associates. It's for groups. It's for teams. That's how it was originally designed. It is a opportunity to learn about theory and put it directly into practice. Again, the original design, you learn things and then you put them into practice. It was not just all ambiguity, which is how some T groups, most are led today, where the faculty hardly says anything. That's not how this is designed. So join us for that. There's always workshops. There's the Leadership Institute of Seattle, a 2-year program where you will learn from T groups and learn how to do all the organization development work that my father designed, most of it, and I continue that practice alongside my brother Chris and many other associates. So don't be a stranger. There's a lot going on. It's always changing. So be in touch, and it's on the website, crosbyod.com. I look forward to working with you in your organization or as you pursue things like reducing gun violence and decreasing racism in our society. Whatever your goals are, the social science of Kurt Lewin guides how to achieve those goals in a reliable way. And so that's what I apply and practice every day. And I invite you to do the same. Together, we can create high productivity and morale in organizations. We can create stronger foundations for democracy. We can create a better world.